Those days. I remember those days.
Hello, vinyl community. This is Tommy, and welcome to another musical adventure. Today's adventure is one that I'm quite excited about, and I'm surprised that actually more people aren't talking about it. But I figured, you know what? If no one else will talk about it, I will. And it is concerning a reissue of an album that I am really excited about and wanted to share the news with you guys. I think it's been pretty low-key, but it may be an album that you've never heard of, and that's fine too. But I figured I'd talk about it a little bit. This is sort of an album spotlight, if you will. But it is on this album. The Velvet Crush is the name of the band, and the album is Teenage Symphonies to God. That sounds really familiar, Teenage Symphonies to God. Where have I heard that before? It was sort of a working title or a phrase that was tied into Brian Wilson's Smile project. This is an album that I've been waiting for on vinyl for at least probably 20 years, maybe more. And so I thought I would talk about it because it is finally being reissued on vinyl. I say reissued. I don't think it ever came out on vinyl. Maybe in the UK it came out on vinyl. But look at this cover. I mean, come on. But a little bit about the band. Velvet Crush is a band that started in Rhode Island. It's a three-piece band. It is Paul Chastain, Rick Mink, and Jeffrey Borchardt. And so the main two guys that are in the band is Rick Mink, who's the drummer. You probably recognize Rick Mink's name because he played with Matthew Sweet. So there you go. Your power pop people know about Rick. And they were formed together with Chastain and Mink, and they started playing in different bands, the duo of Chastain and Mink. I think there was a band called Choo Choo Train. They released some stuff. And so they kind of toiled around in the late 80s doing this sort of power pop sort of thing. Now, power pop, for those of you who don't know, followers of my channel, a great example of a power pop band would be Badfinger, but it's sort of power pop is sort of kind of heavy guitars, melodic music. A lot of it's based on mid-60s Beatles material. Think Paperback Writer and songs like that came out in the middle period of the Beatles. Well, in the early 70s, bands like Badfinger were doing it, the Raspberries, early stuff, and of course a favorite of mine is Big Star. And that is what grounds that the Velvet Crush toiled in, was the power pop genre. I'm going to show you guys the back cover there with the track listing and everything. And so sort of what happened was they had recorded, I believe, a few singles and everything. Jeffrey Borchardt came along, and they did a cover version of Teenage Fan Club, another great power pop band. They did a version of their song. What was the song? I think Everything Flows, and started sort of making some noise. And so they released their debut album, In the Presence of Greatness, which was produced by Matthew Sweet. That came out in 1991. This is the CD, of course. I'm just showing you guys what everything looks like. And then that was followed up by this, Teenage Symphonies to God, on the Creation label, Epic. This was produced by Mitch Easter, as you could tell on the back cover. Mitch Easter is a name that's synonymous. He's a North Carolinian, Winston-Salem area. REM, a lot of REM's early stuff was done with Mitch Easter. And so it's a name that's kind of going around. Let's Active, I believe, was Mitch Easter's project. And so the single off of the album, the big single, I think, was the first song called Hold Me Up. This is a import single of it, and it features, of course, the song "Hold Me Up" and a version of the Byrds, "100 Years from Now" and "Don't You Slip Away from Me." This came out in '94. "Why Not Your Baby" is the song written by Gene Clark. So the Byrds play heavily into Velvet Crush's sound. It's very much, if you would think, a cross between, I would describe it as Big Star meets the Byrds. There are a couple of tracks on here on this album that have this sort of countryish feel. You can definitely tell that they're doing songs like 100 Years from Now, and songs like "Why Not Your Baby," which is, again, the great Gene Clark. And so those tracks definitely fall more into the country rock genre. But also, a lot of these songs really fall into what you call the Big Star sort of power pop. You know, these guys were probably direct, I'll say, descendants of Big Star. There's so many people that were direct descendants of Big Star. But some of the critical things that came out about the album, some of the criticisms were things like that the Washington Post said the music is rooted in the ambitious pop rock of the band, such as the Yardbirds and the Byrds. And it sort of resembles the 60s rock revivalism of 80s groups like Game Theory. Definitely there were comparisons to Big Star, which was kind of obvious. But the thing was, what was the thing that that one of the Telegram and Gazette said that this album delicately balances the band's songwriting craftsmanship and the inherent throwaway nature of pop music, harkening back to a time when the picture of screaming teens attending a Rolling Stones concert was almost as powerful as the music itself. Stereo Review called it top to bottom great, and you know, absolutely just a great album through and through. There's not a weak track on here. Of course, the track "Hold Me Up," great power pop song. "My Blank Pages," catchy, really just a sing-along song. "Time Wraps Around You," gorgeous song. And so that's just the first half of the album. So this album came out in '94. Probably sold. It wasn't like a big selling album. They went on tour. They supported a few acts around the time. Jesus and Mary Chain, Mazzy Star, made some noise kind of in the alternative music circles of the time, if you want to call it that. But the album kind of became sought after, like a lot of power pop stuff. And we've talked about it on the channel here that a lot of power pop music kind of flies under the radar and the radio. It's never as successful as you think it would be. You would think catchy, great guitar music with harmonies and melodies would go very well with the radio. I remember when I heard Matthew Sweet's "Girlfriend" and I thought, this has got to be a huge song, because it was just so catchy and infectious and just all those great words. The same thing could be said about this album and this band. And so it's an album that quite a few folks have been clamoring for on vinyl. And so the vinyl reissue was announced a couple of days ago. And I'm going to put a link down below. I believe they're only making 2,000 copies of it. Now, 500 of them are available from Mill City Sound, which is a record store up in Minnesota. Rick Mink is involved with it. And I believe he's involved with the label that's reissuing it. I believe I confirmed that the new cut is mastered or done by Jeff Powell out of Memphis. Kind of makes sense. Jeff Powell does really decent work, so it's going to be a great sounding vinyl edition. I don't know where they're pressing it. They may be pressing it at that Memphis plant. I don't know. But you can order the album. It's about $30, and they'll do shipping. I believe they're releasing it to your local record stores. So if you're interested, ask your local guy if he's going to stock any copies of it. I feel like this is an album that's going to come and go. Once the word gets out that it's being reissued, I think a lot of people are going to jump on it. They're going to want to get it, particularly, the fans of that kind of music, people like myself, are going to jump all over it and want to order a copy. The Mill City Sound, I'm going to put the link down there where you can go order a copy, and they'll have it. And I think there's a counter on there of how many are left. I think there's around 400 left as of this video. So you have a shot at getting it. So check it out. I mean, there's clips on YouTube. Check the band out. I mean, if you're into power pop music and you like that kind of sound, if you like bands like Big Star, Matthew Sweet, Teenage Fan Club, if you're in that sort of, realm, wheelhouse of groups, this is a definite for you guys. The Essential Album Guide called this album a compelling and important work that deserves attention. It's just one of the great sort of lost albums of the 90s, if you will. So worth seeking out and great to get on vinyl. So definitely go check it out. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do so. Hit the subscribe button. I've talked about power pop and some of my favorite bands on this channel before. And so if you're into that or you stumbled into it that way, check it out. Comment down below. Do you know this album? Are you a fan of this album? Did you know it was coming out on vinyl? You vinyl people. Well, here you go. Go order it. You can have one. I appreciate everyone that takes time to watch. The links on everything are in the description down there. So go check it out. In the meantime, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.